the 16th time in Cowboys franchise history, they make the trek to Oxnard, California for training camp 2022. It's the 43rd time the Cowboys have had training camp in Southern California. As we welcome you into special edition for the first time in the 2022 season. Glad to be with you from the site of Cowboys training camp alongside Nick Eatman and Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans as we get another season started for the Dallas Cowboys. It's the sights, it's the sounds of training camp in Oxnard returning again. But gentlemen, it is an informational gathering, training camp 2022. It's good to be back with you guys, but I want to start things off with the biggest burning question that you guys have at the moment, and then we'll go from there. Nate, we'll start with you since you are the veteran of Special Edition and maybe the veteran in terms of training camps. It's probably pretty close between you guys.
Right.
But close. What is your biggest burning question overall?
Is how physical can we be physical with a limited amount of padded practice? We need to be physical, especially offensively. We need to be physical. We need to get back to running the ball, eating up clock, get time of possession, and making sure we handle that right there. And if they can be physical on offense, run the ball, make things happen, and if we can find a place with Tyron Smith at the left guard as a starter, we should be okay.
You know, for me, you go to the defensive side of the ball, it's you got to move forward. We're moving forward. There's no step back. So Trevon Diggs, Micah Parsons, last year was great. Do it again. This team needs you to do it again. The offense, I think, needs the defense to get those turnovers and all that. Who replaces Randy Gregory? Who does all that on the outside? I trust Dan Quinn with that. But we saw Leighton Vander Esch. We saw him have a great rookie year. And then there was some setbacks, whether it be injury. We don't need Micah Parsons or Trevon Diggs to take any step back. If they can move forward, then I think this defense has a chance to be special again.
So kind of keeping it along the same lines, I mean, this is camp 25 for you,
25.
Nate? 25 years. That's a quarter of a century for Nick Eatman. What about you, Nate? How long have you been
here? In my first training camp, this guy pushed me on the sideline.
I think I've done the whole 16 here.
Okay.
And then I did about 10 or 12 with the, 1,000 Oaks.
Okay.
And wow, I don't know, probably about
You just
30.
don't have the math.
Yeah, I don't have the math, man.
It
don't matter. I'm here now. That's what counts, man.
Wow, okay.
Now. It don't matter.
But it does matter in the fact that now, at this moment, how many times? Oh, wow, we've got a special guest with Al Harris in the building. What's up, Al?
Hey, man,
What's up, Coach?
How's it going?
Hey, look at my guy. He's like,
I'm good.
what's going on?
What's up, Coach Harris? How you doing,
Do I need to
man?
get up?
I was about to say, we can switch the mics around if we need to.
Is we going to get 11, 12 Oscars by that kid again? Okay, okay.
Of course. Yeah. So 11 or 12 picks from Trevon Diggs. Al Harris tells you right
Thank
here.
you, Coach.
He's got it figured out.
Al Harris has always said it. When Matt Hasselbeck was doing the talking that one playoff game, he's finished it with an interception. So, he knows how to do it and right off.
We are always welcoming to any guests from the coaching staff or the players that want to come and say hi here on Special Edition. But one, it honestly, you look at it from, it's part of the question I was about to ask. He's a big reason for that. Out of all of the training camps that you guys have been a part of, how many has the defense entered as maybe more of the momentum and maybe more of the high expectations along the way than the offense? Because at least through the history of the Cowboys, it seems like it's been the other way around. The offense has had a little bit of an advantage.
My Super Bowl runs. We talked about our offense, the triplets, but our defense was what carried. I think one year we was ranked number 1. A couple of years was ranked number 3. We was always a top 5 defense during my Super Bowl year. So our defense always walked in with the momentum. I mean, even Jimmy made our run pass 7 versus 9. He would put the 9 guys on defense and 7 on offense. It always leaned towards our defense.
Yeah, and I think that he's right. That's how it eventually evolves. But to answer your question, I think when you go out to camp, it always starts with the offense. When you have Emmett and Michael and Troy and Nate, those four.
Fat.
Yeah. But that's where the focus is. And yes, the defense comes on and it's like, wow, defense is better than we thought or whatever. But it always seems to start with offense. But I think your best players on the field, no offense to Zach Martin, he's the most consistent. But I think Micah Parsons is the best football player on this team. And so to me,
great.
I believe that. And I think Trevon Diggs is not too far out behind him.
And a big reason for that is Al Harris and the coaching that he's done over the first 2 years of Trevon Diggs' career. Along with getting a look at the Cowboys for the first time and really seeing how this team is evolving, we also get to hear about the expectations of the front office and maybe a little inside look of the front office as well. Should Tyron Smith be worried about his future based on the words from Jerry Jones? We'll talk about it when we come back with more Special Edition.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Reliant, an NRG company. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by Salvation Army, Love Beyond.
And so let me be real clear. We're in a sport, we're in football, where certainly your skill level and your ability to be a player is why you're even being considered as a player. But more important than anything, these decisions that I made, relative to top players not being here had everything to do with their availability.
Our Jerry Jones sound presented by Texas Lotto, and he had a very clear message when it came to the availability of key players, especially the top players on your roster. And of course, the offseason moves certainly reflect that. Taking a look at some of those offseason subtractions for the Cowboys, right at the top of that list, Amari Cooper headed to the Cleveland Browns. He was traded for a couple of draft picks. Lyle Collins cut, Randy Gregory on the defensive line, now in Denver, and then a pair going to the Miami Dolphins with Connor Williams and Cedric Wilson. Also, not to mention the kicker, Greg Zuerlein, out this season as well. And it's been a very clear message for Jerry Jones, saying the availability of these key players is key to success. And we've really seen it throughout. But with some of the puzzling offseason moves at times, Nick, did you really get some clarification and maybe some context as to why those moves happened with Jerry's words?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we had an understanding of why it happened. To me, though, Kyle, it comes down to, can you play? I mean, are you meeting the demands of your salary? That's what it all boils down to. And I think if they really thought that they were getting the return on investment, then, they would figure it out. You always figure it out when the guys that can really play. They just thought that they could spend that money elsewhere. I think that they believe that Amari Cooper, that CD was ready to take over. So there's reasons for all of it. I just mentioned him, but I think it boils down to the contracts that they had, and they really weren't meeting that in their minds.
And I agree with you 100%. But I like how he opened up. It was serious-minded. I mean, you usually open up with a joke. All of that's fine. But I like for players to know, Jimmy used to speak to us through the media, hey, get your behind in gear. We give you a bigger piece of the pie. We expect for you to play bigger, not only on the field, in the locker room, off the field. We don't know what was behind some of those words Mr. Jones used with some of the players that he used. But I promise you that right here, that is a great message to send.
Now, it was a message not only to what happened in the past, but it's also to what could happen in the future. Let's talk about Tyron Smith. He's missed really the majority of his games over the last couple of seasons compared to some of the other key players on the roster. But 20 games over the last 2 years, Nate, when you look at an offensive lineman of his stature, when he's available, he's productive.
And that is the reason he's still here. Because when you look at each position, can they be replaced with the same amount of effectiveness? Even though he missed anywhere from 4 to 5 games, maybe 6 a year, he is that one piece that you just cannot throw somebody in there with the consistency he has brought over the years. Now, past this year, I don't know, but that's for any veteran guy.
Does it just really provide a little bit of extra context real quickly here, Nick, about what's at stake for him this season?
It's all about him. If he can stay healthy and play at that top level, then they're not going to move on from him. Because it's all about the expectations, and when he's healthy, he's still one of the best.
And it's a decision that this front office at some point is going to have to make along the way. And, well, Nick Eatman got a chance to talk with the front office. Stephen Jones, we hear from him when we come back on the other side of the break with more Special Edition.
This segment was brought to you by Salvation Army, Love Beyond. This segment is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
It's an exciting time for most around the NFL and especially around the Dallas Cowboys, but it's also for the front offices to get a benchmark look at their rosters and how it may stack up against expectations or even opponents. Our very own Nick Eatman caught up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer, and I mean, I can't do these interviews out here in Oxnard without talking about the weather. I mean, yes, everyone at home may get upset about it, but it's one of the #1 reasons why you're out here, right?
Well, it doesn't get any better than this. I remember when I played in college and you had 2-a-days and you were just into survival mode. I know talking to some of our older players when we'd go to Wichita Falls, I mean, they were just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And here, I mean, I think you get great work done. I mean, obviously the guys are totally focused on football out here. It gives them a little respite from the daily grind with the family and the kids and the girlfriends and all the different things. But players need opportunities to, to really get out there and show what they're all about. And you got a guy like a Tyron Smith who the first couple of days has really done a great job here. And it's nice to see a Willetsko and Ball and Steele and those guys stepping up. So, we really feel good about those players, and now they're going to really show us what they're all about here. And I think they're going to answer the bell, and I think we're going to be better for it. Sam Williams made some plays out here today showing, his speed and quickness and what he was all about in the SEC, getting double-digit sacks. And Jalen Tolbert making some plays right off the bat, some big catches. He's smooth. I think Dak has a ton of confidence in him. So, it's great to see these guys step up, and I'm sure as this camp goes, we're going to have more guys that turn their heads.
I'm talking about the offensive line. You just mentioned that. How do you weigh that line of, Bob, this is the time to compete, maybe battle for some positions, but at the same time you want to build continuity with that line? How do you balance that, these guys getting a chance?
Well, that is the tough, and that's the tough part of this, but at the same time, and we know the restrictions we have now with the work rules, in the latest CBA, so you don't have the amount of time you used to have with these players, but you do want to have, you want to create that continuity, but at the same time, you want to have competition. And I think, Coach McCarthy and Kellen and Coach Philbin will do a great job of that there with the offensive line, with the combinations that we're looking at there. Certainly, DQ will do the same thing on the defensive line front. And then, of course, I know Dak's been working with all these receivers on their own. So I think we're going to be able to get the job done.
It's always fun to talk to you, so I appreciate the time out here, and we'll see you next week. That's Cowboys Chief Operating Officer Stephen Jones.
You can catch the entire interview with Nick Eatman and Stephen Jones on DallasCowboys.com. When we come back, are the top draft picks already showing their worth early on out here in Oxnard?
This segment was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
My particular experience in this, I coach as a head coach over a decade where, veteran free agency wasn't really part of the everyday formula. So you always have had to count on our young players. Our young players will impact our success early in the season. That's what history tells you, and that's really the way we're approaching it.
Mike McCarthy speaking on the importance of young players and how they're going to have to find some kind of production here in year #1. A lot of these rookies as well showing their worth early. Also, the McCarthy Sot brought to you by Reliant, and Stephen Jones earlier. Great interview, by the way, brought to you by AT&T. So let's get into some of these top draft picks. Tyron Smith right at the top of that, first-round pick, sharing some reps at the starting left guard spot. Since it's offensive line, I'll start with the relative offensive lineman on the edge there. What have you seen from Tyron Smith, and what are your expectations for him to perform early?
The limited time I've seen, he seemed to keep his hand inside. That was the thing coming from his school, that he got his hands outside, but he's been at the left guard sharing that with McGovern. He's been pretty good and consistent with his technique. But what I need for him to do is be physical. I saw him today rip through a guy. It took his face mask almost off. We need more of that. That young guy can play.
Can you do that out here? Can you do that with so many limitations to being physical? Can you be physical out here when the rules tell you not to be?
Yes, he can. Yes, because it's all about finishing the guy. When the whistle blows, are you on top or do you have your hand around his throat when it's over? That's what counts.
Yeah. Hey, that's one way to do it. I mean, even without the pads on, there's a little bit of that grit that McCarthy was talking about in his opening press conference. Let's go from first round to second round. And, Nick, I'll start with you on this one. We've seen a couple of snaps where Sam Williams, second-round pick out of Ole Miss, edge rusher, looks like he is ready for the NFL and that pace. Is that something, is it high expectations around Sam Williams because of what he's done, or are we just trying to compare him to what Micah Parsons did as a rookie a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to go down that road, and you're just like, well, what if what if he could be like that? He could get two Micah Parsons. But to me, the combination of a couple of things. Number one, just the way he can get around the edge. He's got those instincts. It's hard to teach that. He's already got it. And then you add that with Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn was one of the reasons Micah was able to do what he did. So I trust in Dan Quinn to put Sam Williams in spots, and they got a lot of rushers, so he can do what he does best. I think it's going to be a bonus pick right there. I really, so far, as long as he, keeps his, it's to his business, doesn't have any issues off the field. I know that was one of the reasons why he went to the second round. So, if he can show those reasons of why he, could be a star player, that could be a great pick.
I love it. When I first saw him, I'm like, look, this dude is built to be a defensive end. It's been with DeMarcus Lawrence since we had a guy that looks like a defensive end. Man, tell you what we'll do, we'll keep him in an apartment. If that makes you, we'll just guard him all the time and just let him play games. This dude like he can play. If he can play like he look, this dude gonna be a dog.
By the way, I know you're new to Special Edition. You don't have to keep up to the emotions and the effects down on that end.
I can't. I will
There's
never.
no
I will
way.
never
There's no way.
keep
I
up
couldn't
with
either at
Nate.
the same time. Great overall analysis from Nate Newton. Now let's talk about Jalen Tolbert. He actually went and trained in Miami with Dak Prescott. He spent this offseason really trying to get that timing down. Have you seen that in the early practices up until this point?
Yeah, a little bit. You can tell he's maybe spent some time in that Dak yard football back there, because that's really what helped Cedric Wilson. Just you got to have that timing with Dak, and he's going to get that even more. And so he's going to get a lot of reps out here, and we'll see how he handles it. But so far, so good with him.
I just want him to learn that slot position, because that's where we'll need him at the most, I think.
And along with those guys, there's plenty to prove, not only from the rookies, but throughout the entire roster. When we come back, who is the most to prove out of the returners on this Cowboys roster? When we come back with more Special Edition.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Wrapping things up here on this first edition of Special Edition from Oxnard, California with Nick Eatman and Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Really quickly, gentlemen, a couple guys that you really want to see show out and guys that have a ton to prove. We'll start on the defensive side of the football with Trysten Hill. How much does he have to show for you?
Well, he's got to show the coaching staff that he can be a guy that can get up the field, and that's one thing he's really good at, though. You got to be patient, though, and make sure that you don't give up big runs, big gashes, and all that. I think he's kind of the forgotten guy a little bit, but people will tell you he's quietly getting the job done. So he's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to cut down there, defensive tackle. Don't know what's going to happen, but he's got some athletic ability, though.
He's been a flasher, and then he get injured. He is a flasher, then he get injured. He's got to have an excellent year, and that's the only way we keep this guy.
And I'm going to turn it right back to you. What about Connor McGovern, Nate?
Same with him. Got to have a great year. He got to win the left guard job, which I don't think he will. That's already given to Smith, so bye-bye.
Here's what I think about Connor McGovern, though. He's not going up against Tyler Smith. To me, he's going up against Terrence Steele.
Wow.
He's got to be better at left guard than Terrence Steele is at right tackle, because Tyler Smith's going to play one or the other. That's what I believe. If he can be much better, you want to get your five best linemen, he needs to prove to be one of those guys. He can play his position. If he can play it better than Terrence, I think they move Tyler out.
Steele at right.
Okay.
Steele will be at right tackle.
Okay, well.
That's Nate's prediction.
That's just
I
my-
like
yeah.
that, though, because
Yeah.
it's not
I like
just
your strategy.
straight up a left
That's all it
guard
is, though.
battle.
That's all it is.
It's
That's
not a
moral
left
victory.
guard battle only. There's a right tackle that has to prove himself as well. I like the thought process. Plenty more to come on Special Edition. We'll be here throughout training camp here in Oxnard. Again, thanks to everybody back in studio. You can keep up to date with everything on DallasCowboys.com as well. For Nate Newton, For Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Yeomans. The first edition of Special Edition Gun Sights Sounds Oxnard. It's all back in 2022.